So, Janis, start us off. What do we know about the details of this agreement, the summit, why now, and its historic impact?
We really did see Vladimir Putin get the red carpet welcome here with Kim Jong Un waiting for him in the middle of the night. And from the moment he arrived, the two didn't leave each other's side. Optics very important here as they were walking around past soldiers, past horses, past school children, really giving this show of unity. And after 2 hours of talks, emerging with this agreement, signing a strategic defense treaty, promising each other mutual assistance against aggression in case each other's country comes under some sort of aggression. So what we are seeing here is this sense that they are emerging from this stronger partners, which of course will be troubling for the U.S. and the rest of the West.
And Peter, this is a lot more than symbolism. Does this change the outlook in Ukraine? It already has, actually, because Russia would have been on its back heels without all the help from China, but North Korea, critical munitions.
Absolutely. Thousands of shipping containers worth of weapons, ballistic missiles, artillery shells, ammunition, and all that. And it's a remarkable thing to see a country like Russia, a one-time global superpower, now trying to reassert itself, depending on North Korea, of all places, a broken economy, a hermit kingdom, as it's often called, to supply it with the weapons it needs. But it talks about how the global order is changing in these last couple of years. The alignment between Russia and China, Russia and North Korea, and Russia and Iran has, upended, the traditional diplomacy that we saw in past years. It wasn't that long ago, and Andrea, you and I covered it, that there were six-party talks involving North Korea to try to get it to back off its nuclear program. And Russia and China were part of that, along with the United States and Japan and South Korea. Now, basically, Putin, with his visit today and the document they signed, is saying no more, I'm on North Korea's side and I'm not ever, signing up with the West again.
And China used to help the U.S. in pressuring North Korea to demilitarize. And in 2000, with then Secretary of State Madeleine Albright, I was in Pyongyang and with Kim's father as the leader. And they were talking about a peace agreement that Bill Clinton says, regretfully, he would have signed if not for Peter, if not for the election, the Bush-Gore dispute, the fact that he didn't want to leave the country with no one knowing who was president for more than 30 days. All, sort of accents of history, which brings me to Victor Cha, because you know so well that it was then when George W. Bush took over that in the spring of 2001, to the surprise of Colin Powell, then the Secretary of State, they decided not to go forward with that peace agreement that had been basically almost initialed in the October previous by the Clinton administration.
Yeah, and as Peter said, during those six-party talks that you covered, Andrea, and others, I was in the government at the time, and Russia had signed on to not one, but 11 UN Security Council resolutions against North Korea, sanctioning them for their proliferation behavior. And so this new agreement on security that Janis mentioned that was just signed between the two sides is really a renewal, I think, of the Cold War agreements that were reached between the two that for a period were nullified when South Korea normalized relations with the Soviet Union in 1990. That is all gone now. As Peter said, Russia is clearly on North Korea's side, and I don't think this is transactional. I think this is for the long term.
Let me also ask you, what technology do you think that North Korea is getting from Russia? Because this is a two-way street. The military aid, surplus weapons that are compatible with the Soviet-era weapons that they're using against Ukraine, the artillery, the other munitions they need. But they are now getting very important help to expand the nuclear missile program. Do you know in what way? What have you learned?
So I think that's right. I mean, the White House has been a bit modest in terms of what they think the Russians are providing, maybe surface-to-air missiles, some other sorts of things. But I'm really quite worried that Kim Jong Un will drive a hard bargain because he knows Putin needs the ammunition for the war in Ukraine. And we'll be asking for things that are larger than that, things like nuclear submarine technology, advanced telemetry, as well as technology for his intercontinental ballistic missiles. So there's a long wish list that Kim has, and Putin may not have a choice but to give those things to him.
And this summit, Peter, looks like a very obvious response to the partnership that President Biden and Ukraine's President Zelensky signed last week. We just don't know about the concrete commitment of aid, but it seems as though North Korea and China are really bailing Putin out on Ukraine.
Yeah, and you heard the president talk about that during the G7 in Italy. He talked about how China has been, in fact, helping Russia. China refused to go to that peace summit that President Zelensky of Ukraine sponsored in Switzerland. Absolutely, the alignment here of these four countries, really, the United States, Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran, is really creating a whole new dynamic, I think, for American and Western diplomacy. The United States has worked hard to keep China from going all in with Russia, in the sense that they think that they have not provided some of the same kind of weaponry that they're getting from North Korea and Iran. But we don't know where that will end up. And China has made very clear, and Janis knows this better than I do, but that, you know, in this conflict right now, it sides with Russia. And of course, that is putting Russia into China's pocket to some extent. It's remarkable that Vladimir Putin, who wants to reassert Russian power on the world stage, in effect is making himself a vassal state to his neighbor in China. And I think that's another, long-term change in our world dynamics.